Welcome to Amplifying Leadership, a place where we talk with guests on their leadership journeys and hear what they think is key to becoming a great leader. My name is Tara Lehman, and I am a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Life Coaching and Business Services, of which Amplifying Leadership is a division. For our leadership clients, we support you through this podcast and various leadership growth services. To learn more about Amplifying Leadership and our community, please visit amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming Jon, who is an international speaker who inspires and empowers to change the world through servant and love-based leadership. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? It's great to be here.
Thank you. It's going well. Well, I like to always start with introducing you to our listeners today. So tell us a little bit about your leadership story.
My leadership story started when I was 12 years old, believe it or not. Yeah. So I had gotten into martial arts at a regularly or reasonably young age, probably 11, I think, and kind of quickly was known as somebody that could I don't know, keep up, I guess. And one day the sensei was stuck in traffic, and so she didn't show up. And so the parents of the class said, we think you should teach Jon. And I was like, oh, no, absolutely not.
Wow.
I'm not the oldest. I'm not the highest ranking. I mean, there literally was no reason that I should be the one that they asked. And they said, well, we're paying for the class and we think you should teach.
Wow.
And so I stepped in front of that class, and that was my first foray into leadership. And it continued from there. By the time I was 15, I was the assistant instructor. By the time I was 17, I had my own classes. And by the time I was 19, I had over 500 students in the Phoenix metro area.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's an accomplishment.
It was remarkable. And I had other scenarios where I was functioning in leadership. I coached some soccer and just in business and things like that. The problem is that despite having these opportunities for leadership, I was not mature enough for the leadership. And so, you get the experience and you are able to learn things, but ultimately, if you have character flaws, leadership is going to be the easiest way to reveal those because you're under a microscope. And so for me, part of my journey was that at 19, with everything going for me and so much potential, I made a really terrible decision. And me and 3 of my friends had this brilliant idea to light a building on fire. Absolutely terrible decision. And if that decision itself was not bad enough, my best friend who lit the match did not make it out of the building alive.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And so lost my best friend, obviously, and was sentenced to prison. That's a crime. That's not okay. And that was a huge wake-up call for me. And I had to address character issues of courage and integrity and all the things that at 19, with everything going for me, I didn't have. I was living a duplicitous life, and it was all about ego and nothing about service, even though I had these opportunities where by that time I'd been in leadership. The neat thing is that as I addressed those things, the call to leadership, if I can call it that, didn't go away. And so even in prison, I was given opportunities to lead, surprisingly. Wow. And so by the time I left prison, my legacy was having built, I shouldn't say built, because there was other people that were obviously involved, but I left a legacy of what was known as IPP. It stood for Inmate Peer Programming. And basically it was programs that were by, for, and through the inmates that were designed to help empower people to successfully transition back into the community. And we were offering everything from parenting to money management to small business to rehabilitation classes, all sorts of stuff. And my job was not only to offer those classes, but to actually bring up the leaders that would offer those classes. So I was kind of doing like train the trainer and stuff like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that was my legacy is that I built programs and helped provide a path for success. And then I got out of prison and thankfully, not just another statistic. I had used my time well. I had gotten degrees. I had done all sorts of stuff. And 3 weeks after I got out, I had the opportunity to, someone gave me a shot. They said, you know how to build curricula? We need a trainer. So why don't you come in and build some training for us? And I started functioning again, kind of in what I'd been doing, providing meaningful content and training. And I think it was a month and a half later, they said, we don't really want you as a contractor anymore. What do we got to do to keep you? And so they made me the training manager of an international logistics company. And so 2 months out of prison, I'm once again in like full-time leadership, helping lead an international company. And then that company was kind of the impetus for this servant-minded leadership, or SML consultative, that I'm starting now. And it's happening at the same time. So I've got this consultancy where I'm trying to empower people to be effective leaders while I am also leading. And so that company that hired me as a contractor to build some content and then promoted me to training manager, then decided, you know what, we actually want you to have a more dynamic role. And they asked me to be their director of revenue. And
Oh, wow.
so,
Well done.
yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, that's kind of my journey, where it's been everything from church. I didn't mention church, but I'm also leading the college group at the church that I'm a part of. And so, being able to speak into the lives of 18 to 25-year-olds there at my church. And just trying to pour into it. But it was honestly during the prison time that I kind of really stepped into what real leadership is, instead of just being at the front of the room, which is what had happened so much before. And now I'm just trying to live out that servant-minded leadership that I love to help and encourage others to do the same.
So I guess there is a silver lining to your dark cloud.
There really is. I have this saying that I really love, and that is that God has the uncanny ability to take our stupidity and turn it into something great. And
Well, it certainly worked in your case, that's
yeah,
for sure.
for sure.
Wow, that's quite the journey. So
It
let me
is.
let me ask you, besides your prison obstacle, obviously
Yeah,
that was an obstacle to your leadership.
yeah.
Was there any other large obstacles that you've had bumps along the way, so to speak, that have kind of not held you back, but were bumps in the road on your journey?
I have to just take ownership and say I've been the biggest bump in my
Yeah.
leadership journey. I tell you, it's so easy to step into a heart of I'm sorry. It's so easy to step into a heart of ego instead of a heart of love. And when you do, you're not effectively leading. And so there's been many times on the journey where I had to say, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not leading, you're directing. You're
Mm-hmm.
not leading, you're ordering. And those are very different places. So I think the major bumps that I've encountered, they're me. And I
I,
had to stop doing that.
I think it normally is, especially at the beginning of
Oh,
leadership, right? I
absolutely.
think we have to
Yeah.
learn that as we grow. All right.
100%. Yeah.
So obviously you talk a lot about servant-based leadership.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about that for our listeners, why that speaks to you.
So first became acquainted with the idea of just servant leadership through some reading that I did, and a lot of John Maxwell. John Maxwell
Yes.
influenced a lot of the thought that I had on servant leadership. But what I found, and this is probably not universal, but I think in a lot of cases, servant leadership has been undersold and therefore underdelivered. What's happened over the last 30-ish years is that in an effort to get companies to pay for leadership coaching, there's been a huge emphasis on the ROI.
Yes,
Now,
I agree.
obviously, ROI is important, but the problem is that instead of it being about the leaders serving, it's become about, listen, if you'll do this, you'll get that. It's going to become a quid pro quo arrangement.
Hmm.
And it's almost not servant leadership, it's almost manipulation. Again, not every time, not every person, but I just see that a lot where it's not so much like, hey, how can you genuinely impact lives for good? It's like, hey, if you do this, you're going to get better output, or you're going to get whatever it is. And while servant leadership will give you better output, what I've been really focusing on and trying to assist my clients with is servant-minded leadership, where the leaders
Mm.
understand they are uniquely positioned to dynamically impact the lives of those they lead. And they're going to, whether for good or for bad. So what
Hmm.
are we going to do in that scenario? Are we going to make the most of it and provide positive and encouraging and beneficial leadership, or are they going to be telling a story in 10 years about this terrible boss that did this, said that, wouldn't understand, wouldn't listen, whatever it is?
Yeah, we've all had one of those as well.
Every single one. And sometimes we have been that one, right?
Yes, right. You've got to learn as you go.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about servant-minded leadership with regards to your journey. So how did you discover that for yourself? Was that through Maxwell or was it through something else?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a specific point. I think it was a gradual understanding where I came to realize that real leadership makes an impact but not for selfish gain. And I think one of the ways that that was easiest, prison is not a good time. I don't recommend anybody go there, but in that environment, people that are doing good things are not particularly liked. And nobody knew how to deal with me. The staff didn't know how to deal with me. The inmates didn't know how to deal with me. And I was there for 12 years. I mean, it was a chunk of time. And so to be able to navigate that, you have to say, all right, what's the right thing to do? And it doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to do the right thing and know that when my head hits the pillow, I did my best.
Right.
Pass or fail, succeed or not, I did the best I could. And so that really helped shape me and helped me to kind of come to a place of like, you know what? I'm going to serve. I'm going to do the best I can. And you know what? This person that I'm pouring into, they might never do the right thing. They might be back 10 to, there were times that, or people that I knew that had been back 3, 4, 5, 8 times to prison. Just keep coming back.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And I had one person, I don't think I'll ever forget it. They came up and they said, "Hey, do you remember me? You actually taught my reentry class." And I literally looked at him square in the eyes and said, "Well, I guess I didn't do a very good job." And they said, "No, you did great. I just didn't put any of it into practice."
Well, at least you did well.
And so, but just being willing to do that. And so now I transfer that into the corporate world. And yes, of course, from a book's perspective, you have to be able to justify the cost. And from an HR perspective, you're looking for conflict resolution. But from a leadership perspective, saying it's not about moving up the ladder. It's not about getting that next, whether it's a promotion or somebody likes you or that next invitation. It's about, I'm in this position and I have a choice. Am I going to make a positive impact or a negative one? And so for me, it was a gradual thing, but it's become a passionate part of me.
And I love the word choice because everything we do is a choice, right? And although your path was difficult, you learned how to build choice into your future decisions. And all leaders have choices. We can choose to be a micromanager or we can choose to involve the team in any decisions that we make, right? And so servant-minded leadership, I like how you say that, certainly speaks to bringing in the team. Something I used to do was we had to make major changes to something besides whatever was required by law. Ask the team, is there anything else that we should be putting into this procedure? What do you guys think? And I think that's so important.
I agree. I just literally was just doing that right before we got on this call, and there was a lot of, "Hey, what do you think about this? And do you like that?" And I was checking their work. I'd trying to empower them, but they said, "Hey, can you come review this?" And I said, "Hey, I really like what you did here. What do you think it would look like if we did it like this? Do you like that? Do you think it's better? I do it top and bottom. All right, here's my version, here's yours. Which one do you like better?" And celebrating it even when they said, "No, I like mine better." Great. Awesome. Let's go with yours then. And celebrating that. And I think that's super valuable.
And, when we talk about servant-minded leadership and we talk about ROI, I mean, you can look at things like employee retention, number one. If they're still there, they're feeling welcome, heard, and included, right?
Yes.
Speaking to the DEI piece of it as well.
Yeah.
So I think that there are ROIs. Even profits can go up if you can figure out how to map that to see it, right?
Yeah, and that's so from my business perspective, when I'm selling the product and I'm talking to HR representatives and executives, that's actually the line I use, that we empower frontline leaders, because I focus on the frontline ones more than the executives. So we empower frontline leaders to effectively engage with their teams via servant-minded, love-based leadership in order to improve employee retention and customer satisfaction. You're going to do that. But that has to be only at the purchaser level, I'll call it. If you're the one buying the service, that's the benefit. But what I'm going to teach the actual leaders is how to effectively engage with their team.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So let's continue our conversation with the servant-minded leadership around communication. So is there something that is a key piece of communication that you feel great servant-based leaders should be looking at?
I think authentic communication. I think too often we are scripted. We're worried about what could or could not be used against us. And this is, again, where the servant-minded leadership, minded really is mindfulness. It's being present. It's being authentic. I think it's, it's not Maxwell. It is Dave Ramsey. I think Dave
Okay.
Ramsey has a speech on leadership where he talks about the value of communication. And he says, if you don't tell them what's actually going on, they'll make up something far worse.
Yes.
And that resonates, right? Like how many rumors
Mhm.
could have just been stopped if the leader would have been transparent and been like, hey guys, here's what we're working through. I don't have an answer yet, but this is the legit story. Not, oh, I don't want to tell them anything because then they might get scared. They're already scared. If you don't tell
Yeah.
them something, so I think authentic communication is really powerful. That doesn't mean unwise communication. That doesn't mean betraying, secrets. If you're in the middle management tier, there's certain confidentiality that you have to maintain, but trying to be authentic and trying to keep those lines of communication open. And I'll add in that line of authentic communication, one of the things I see leaders do wrong so much is they won't share anything with their team. They operate on that need to know thing and they don't think their
Yes.
team needs to know anything. But then they're shocked when their team doesn't tell them anything.
Hmm.
And it's
Yep.
like your example in communication is going to be what's reciprocated.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if you can't communicate, what makes you think that they're going to?
Yeah, I remember my corporate life as a leader. I would
Yeah.
have open door and open book, meaning some
Yes.
finances, whatever we were permitted to share, so that people had an understanding of what was going on and they knew that they could come to me, they could feel included, they could be heard. I mean, how many safety things go unchecked because people are afraid to talk to their manager or that they have a closed door
Yeah.
manager, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how many times does that happen and the cost associated with it?
It is. And I think I did like a 12-part series on approachability as leaders. I have a YouTube channel that I post videos on 3 times a week. And um, you almost have to be intentional, right? You talk about your open
Yes.
door policy. I guarantee you, if you just left the door open, not very many people were coming in because you're still the leader. You're still scary, even when you don't want to be. Just
Yeah,
that
yeah.
title makes you unapproachable. And so you have to be very intentional. And again, if we aren't intentional about being open, why are they going to be intentional about approaching?
Yeah,
It starts
yeah,
with what we do. Yeah.
exactly. Even just going out, if it's a floor or wherever you work, going out and talking to your team, saying good morning, even just something that allows them
Yes.
to feel like they belong as part of your team. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. And communication is one of my favorite pieces to talk
I
about.
love it.
So I love all the
It's my
points that you
minor. I
did.
can, yeah, we can talk for
I think
days on
I hear
communication.
ya. Most of my guests say that because it is so
Yeah,
important for
it
leaders.
is. It is. Yeah.
What would you say if I had to ask you what that biggest part of servant and love-minded leadership is? What is the biggest part of it to lead effectively? Maybe even as a new leader who is just figuring this all out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I define love as having a genuine interest or a genuine desire for the best interest of another.
Mhm.
And so I think that it starts with loving people in general. Not that you can do everything that everybody wants. That's not what love means. But love means, having that genuine interest. If you hate people in general, you're gonna really struggle as a leader. You really are. I
Yes,
mean,
absolutely.
it's gonna be tough. So starting by just having a general compassion for humanity, I think is where it starts. And then if you have that, you can build on that by having a genuine love for your team where you want what's best for them. And that form of leadership allows you to do things that a lot of people really struggle with. I had a scenario where somebody came to me and they said, hey, I've got a guy on my team. I'm really close to him. We're kind of friends outside of work. But the guy's got a hygiene issue and other people are complaining. And I don't know how to deal with this because he's my friend. And I said, you are so lucky he's your friend. You've already built the relationship that he already knows you
Yeah.
care about him. Use that
Yeah.
as your springboard to say, hey, dude, listen, I love you. We're pals, and I got to bring this to you because right now I love you enough to share with you this. I mean, it might be a little embarrassing, but I want you to succeed, and I want your team to like you, and I want you to be more productive. And so if a leader authentically loves their team, it allows them to make even a hard decision. A teammate is, upset because they're not making enough money. Well, if they don't think you love them, it's all about the money. But
Yes.
if you have a
100%.
genuine care for them and you can with authenticity say, hey, I would love to give you a raise. It's not in the best interest of the organization to give you a raise. And I could give you the raise now, but in 6 months, we're all out of a job. So because I care about you and I care about the team, the best thing I can do is make sure you have job stability by being financially responsible and not doing everything you want, but what is necessary for everybody. And that's a very different conversation if we genuinely love them as opposed to if we don't.
And even goes back to the transparency piece and authenticity piece that you're talking about, because organizations sometimes can't do anything with wages, but if you have a great team and everybody does feel that love that you're talking about, they're not going to run to the next job just because it's 50 cents more an hour. They're going to stay there because they know you care, they know you're listening to what they have to say, and they feel welcome. They feel like a family in some cases, depending on the size of an organization.
Yeah. And as you said, if they feel heard, there's going to be a sense of belonging and community that, they're going to be scared to go anywhere else because they don't know if those people are going to be the same as these people.
Exactly. And that's, that helps an organization grow and build those profits and cost savings that we've been talking about for sure. So if our audience today had to leave with a key takeaway from you, what would it be?
I think it would be exactly what we were just saying. There's just not much better advice I can say than if you are a leader, whether a formal or informal, if you are leading somebody, take time to genuinely love them, like look in your heart. Where is that in you? And then let them know, there's all sorts of love languages in different ways, but they should know via that great communication, via great listening, via whatever you can do as a leader, authentically love your team. And it's amazing what can happen in the context of that relationship, where they just know, like, no, that person cares about me. And those bosses are far and few between. They really are. So if you are a leader and you genuinely care, make sure your team knows.
Yeah.
Let that reflect in that availability and all those things that, we could probably both go on for hours about all the bullet points and ways to show you care. But I don't see anything more important than that. Have a genuine heart to serve and recognize no one is better positioned than you as that leader to effectively impact and dynamically change the life of the person in front of you.
I 100% agree. And you touched on the word belonging earlier. And I think that's an important one that goes with what you're saying as well. If we feel, even as leaders, that we belong in our organization, then it's going to be a much easier place and a much better culture overall.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today. It has been wonderful getting to learn more about you and your servant-minded leadership thoughts. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to share.
So if any of our listeners today wanted to learn more about you or what you do, is there a way they can find you online?
Yeah, we are all over the place. If you look up servant-minded leadership on almost any platform, you're going to find us. So the website is just www.servantmindedleadership, all one word. LinkedIn, we've got servant-minded leadership. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Where else are we? I don't know. We're all over the place. Servant-minded leadership. YouTube, though. YouTube's a big one. YouTube at servant-minded leadership. That's our channel that we put out videos every week. They're usually short, 2 to 4 minutes long, just quick little nuggets on how to lead
but easy to find you.
Yes, awesome. Servant-minded leadership.
Again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Tara.
Thank you, of course, to our listeners. We both hope you are taking away some key tips from Jon today. Leaders need to continually grow and develop for themselves and for their team. If you're looking for support and development or want to join a community, please visit amplifyingleadership.ca, a Twin Life coaching and business services division, for all the details. Until next time, please be safe and be an amazing leader for leaders to be.